Hi everyone, my name is Tobi,
And I'm Temi.
and this is Totally on Brand. Temi, have you ever wondered how? Okay, I'm going to ask you, how did you start TMA? What was the idea? Were you sleeping and you were like, I'm going to start an agency? I
Mm,
need to know what you thought
mm,
and how today you've served over 100 clients.
mm,
How did
mm.
you go from that to there? I'm so curious.
I mean, what gave me the idea, honestly, was a very ugly website. Like, I had a friend, I think, who
Hmm.
was running a business.
Are you brave enough to mention the friend's name?
Um,
No. Okay, let's move on. I'm
I had
joking.
no. I
I thought
actually
I'd put you on the spot real quick.
no. I actually like it was. I just saw an ugly website, and I just thought to myself, this is, I don't know, 2012 or something like that. Why can't Nigerians have nice websites? And the
Mm,
idea came to me in that moment.
mm,
I want Nigerians to have nice websites. And it was also a woman. And it occurred to me that most of the web designers I had encountered in Nigeria were men.
mm.
And I also knew that my own innate talent was not web designing. Like, I knew how to do it, and I did it alone for the first few months because, again, you're starting something.
Mm-hmm.
But then as soon as I could hire people to do it,
You
I
started
started
hiring.
hiring people, and that's how the agency was born. But the idea was literally just to give people good branding, good websites. Let's not be like, look at what they're doing outside of the country.
This is so interesting to me. So
Mm-hmm.
you started off wanting to solve
A
a
problem.
problem
Yeah.
of fixing websites.
Yeah.
As of today, over 10 years later,
Mm-hmm.
what are you guys doing at TMA
Oh,
apart from websites?
uh, marketing strategy, digital marketing, graphic design, web design, um, social media
Did you ever
strategy.
think it would get to this point?
You know, in the beginning, no. In the beginning, my idea was just to fix a problem with
Yes.
design.
Yes.
Then I started thinking that things accompany design, strategy accompanies
Mm.
design, social media accompanies design, good writing, copywriting, like everything. And then that's how everything married.
This is so interesting. I wanted to ask that because our topic today is around how ideas can evolve.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with this little thing in your mind, and before you know it, it becomes culturally impactful.
Mm-hmm.
For me, with the house, it was literally moving back to Nigeria and thinking, why are we indigents not operating heavily in the hospitality space because of what the potential hospitality can do? And most importantly, my entire social life abroad was funded by Nigerian boys. Like, you go out the club,
Hell yes,
like,
I know that.
not like all of us, like you're chilling in your university
Yeah.
and someone is in town and they're like,
Let's go
should
out.
we go out?
Yes,
And
yes.
so I learned to be social
Mm,
with my Nigerian friends, and
mm,
somehow I came back to Nigeria and it was just silent or
mm,
quiet, or there was one or two particular clubs or restaurant that we all kept going to, and that really upset me.
mm,
And I felt like, okay, I was going to start something and hopefully encourage more Nigerian indigents to
mm,
kind of enter into hospitality because we are hospitable people.
mm.
And that idea started from there, and 8 years later,
Here we
Galili.
are. And
Yeah.
what I find so fascinating is that it's a personal need or story or like whatever, it's a trigger.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you build something
You
that then
employ
connects
people.
to thousands, millions of people. And sometimes it might even shape culture. So what that means is you change the way people think about certain things.
Yep.
Your touch points become several. Like, it's not
Yes.
just your restaurants, for example.
Yep.
It could then become your second restaurant. It
Yep.
could become events. It could become
Yep.
a
Yep. Yep.
social club.
Yep.
Like, it just
And I
takes on a life
think
of its own.
the beauty about that for me is when I think of brands or businesses
Mhm.
or people who create or people who build,
Mhm.
an idea starts with something in someone's mind.
Mhm.
Before you know it, it becomes something that employs thousands of people.
Creates jobs.
That
Yeah.
same idea
Yeah.
becomes a platform for
Mm.
other people and the
Mhm.
future
Mhm.
generations to then
Mhm.
build things on
Mhm.
top of,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
you start with one small
Yeah.
thing, then
Yeah.
someone else looks at it and think,
It almost becomes
I
a
can
case study. Yeah.
literally,
Yeah.
and a catalyst effect just goes through. And
So,
on that note, I'm so
we
excited to
have a
speak to
guest.
our guest today
Mhm.
because I think watching her idea evolve into so many forms has been quite fascinating for me,
Absolutely.
because I think when I first heard of this woman, in fact, let me introduce her so I can I stop sounding mysterious. So We have today with us an author, filmmaker, and a TV producer. She is the brilliant mind behind the Money Women series and Lara Unlimited. And else will I describe Arese? She holds an MSc in Economic Development and a BSc in Business and
So she's a
Management.
business
So she's
aficionado.
actually a business professional
Mm-hmm.
who has then transitioned an idea and found herself in the creative world.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, really cannot wait to dissect that. I don't want to give them any more information that I have here. Hopefully, you'll be able to share more details with us. So, welcome,
Okay.
Welcome,
Marisa.
Thank you so
Marissa.
much for having
Yes,
me.
and would
I'm
you like
so
to introduce
excited.
yourself to our audience?
My name is Arese. I'm an author and a filmmaker. I'm best known for my work called The Smart Money Woman, which I wrote a book and turned into a TV series that went on Africa Magic, Netflix, and YouTube.
Ooh.
Amazing. Welcome, welcome,
We're
welcome.
very, very happy to have
Have you?
you.
I'm
And
happy to be here.
I'll
thank
let
you.
Temi.
You-
Because
we were
Temi needs to ask this question. She's been thinking about it for the past week that we've been like ideating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Because we were talking about what our ideas were that led to our
Mm,
businesses now.
Yes.
And I actually am really intrigued or interested to know what your idea was, or what was the need, or like what took root in your mind that made you want to come up with the Smart Money Woman series, or any other thing that you've actually put out into, like, the atmosphere.
I feel like that's a really great question. Smart Money Woman basically came from my own pain points with money. So it was never about like being a financial expert. It was more about telling a story that I felt would resonate with a lot of women that were like me.
Mm-hmm.
That and I'll just say that one woman's confusion about money turned into a cultural shift that changed the way people had conversations about money.
I love
So,
that.
Small Money Woman, because it was so story based and a fictional story that told, talked about like the pain points that several women in the book had when it came to their personal finances and how money affected their love lives, their families, their friendships. It felt real to a lot of people. So it wasn't like a how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like you were seeing versions of women that you hadn't really seen on TV or in a book, like
Mm-hmm.
represented like that. And you saw them, go through struggle, figure it out, navigate different things around like real life things that African cosmopolitan women deal with.
Amazing.
This is so interesting. I'm going to take you back a little bit. You said it was a pain point you were
Yeah.
experiencing, so the idea came. I need to understand the journey between that pain point and you putting pen to paper. What happened in that transition? Because that's a lot of people have ideas, but a
Yeah.
lot of people don't. It's hard to write it down and
Mm,
start to actualize it. I need to know how you thought of it. I have this problem.
mm,
Other people must have this problem,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm picking my pen and I'm going to write something about it.
Mm-hmm.
mm. So basically, I was in a place in my life where I worked in financial services. A marriage had just ended. I had a 1-year-old child in tow. And I was like, I have no excuse for this place that I'm in because I had to find a new apartment, pay 2 years rent up front, buy new furniture, and it was expensive. And I was like,
Mm.
wow, you don't have the excuse of saying that you're a low income earner,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Mm.
because you're living from paycheck to paycheck, and not building assets, to protect your financial future, these sorts of emergencies become like so expensive, right? And I thought, I know I'm brilliant. I have a good job. If this is happening to women like me, who's talking about this stuff? So
Hmm.
I started writing articles on Bella Niger, and I'll never forget, like, my first one was called The Chanel Bag versus His Stock Portfolio. And it was basically like marrying this idea that we could match like lifestyle conversations with financial education.
Mm-hmm.
So it was more like as I was figuring out practical strategies for myself, I thought I thought this was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm.
was like, okay, let me write, an article. At first, I was really shy. I had written it and I kept it for months because I was just like, no one cares about this.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, we weren't so into personal development as a society as we are
Yeah,
now.
Mm,
yeah.
I
I
feel
remember
like,
that
Yeah,
period
me
yeah,
so
too.
I
vividly.
feel like people were more into like who's the band sleeping with,
Yeah,
Hmm.
gossip
like
essentially. Yeah,
gossip,
Are you
you
noticing
know?
we're shifting that culture
very
It's
much so.
shifted,
slowly?
yeah. So when I remember when I used to listen to podcasts or want to go to conferences and stuff, that was stuff that was boring to most of the people
Mm,
that I knew.
mm,
Mm.
But I thought, you know what? I started writing the articles. People really responded to it positively, so I continued. And then one of my friends was like, "Arese, you should totally write a book." And I was like, "Are you mad?
mm.
I re-
Wow.
I read books. I
I
don't
don't
You
write
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 them."
them.
them.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, if I was gonna write a book, like, what
Mhm.
would that, feel like? And
Mhm.
I have, I grew up reading all these books, like Sydney
Yeah.
Sheldon,
Jackie
like
Collins.
Yeah.
about women
Yeah.
who something destructive happened to them and they
Yeah.
had to rebuild their
Their
lives and
lives.
Mm.
things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Like
Sydney was
really,
big on that.
yes.
Yeah.
Michelle.
What's that thing called? The Other Side of Midnight. That was my
Oh my
favorite book for the
goodness.
for the longest time.
I remember that so vividly.
My
Like,
God.
so you know how you're used to reading fictional books
Yeah.
that were centered around women that were inspiring,
Mm.
ambitious, figured out their obstacles.
Mhm.
Those are the type of things that I loved. And then
Mm.
I also loved like business books.
Mhm.
So I thought, okay, if I was going to do this, I want to do something that I would want to read.
Mhm.
Again, I was very obsessed with Sex and the City and the
Mhm.
friendship
Mhm.
and the
Okay.
Mhm.
friendship in Sex and
Mhm.
the City. It was like, yeah, it
Same.
was like my Bible. If I
Mm.
had in university, if I broke up with a boy, there was
There's
an
an
episode
episode that
That would
could
that would
help
help
you
speak
you
to
with
through.
it.
me.
Absolutely. Like at this point we can quote whole
Do
episodes.
you get
Like
what I mean?
I've watched it so often.
I'm
I
horrible. Like I'm actually
I'm a
horrible. Like
one-time
I can
watcher
say
of
the
Sex and the City.
one-time watcher. Like
Yeah.
I watch it at
And
least once a year.
Probably.
Yeah.
because I
It's
was
so
dealing
bad
with
that
immigration issues, I
I've
didn't have
still
time to
watched
watch
I've
Sex and
watched
the
all the
City.
reboots, which are arguably not as great,
Yeah,
obviously, but
but
I've
I'll still watch
the
them because
universe is just so
Yeah,
important to
that
me
is.
because of the friendships.
y-
Yeah.
totally. So
Mm.
I was like, do you know what? Let me create this thing that I think I would want to read. So Small Money Woman basically became a fictional story that told the story of five girls. One was a lawyer, one was in real estate, one was a housewife, like a diverse
Mm.
bunch of women.
Mm.
And lots of people would argue that it wasn't diverse enough because they would say, oh, these people are, a lot of criticism that I got
Yes.
was, oh, these girls aren't reflective of Nigerian society in general
Mm.
because how can someone who earns 600,000 naira be relatable to me?
Mm.
And I accept that, but for me, it was about creating something that I hadn't seen.
Mm.
So it's all well and good for us to have stories about rags to riches, have stories about prostitutes,
Mhm.
have stories in the village.
Mhm.
Those are great stories,
Yeah.
but just the same way Americans have the ability to not have like a monolith of like
Mm-hmm.
stories.
Yeah.
They can
Yeah.
write books and make
Mm-hmm.
movies about cowboys,
Yeah.
about
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
superheroes,
Yeah.
about
So
bankers,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and it can be diverse. It can be about poor people today or rich people
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, so why do Africans have to stick
Why
to
you
like
boxed in? Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
narrative? So I thought I know people who have the same sort of like background as me and exposure as me
Mm.
who are so excited to see that reflected on TV. So they may not be like the general, Nigerian, the average Nigerian
Mhm.
person,
Mhm.
but they exist. And
Mm.
for me, it's important for us to tell more stories
Mhm.
that show Nigerians in a different light.
Yeah.
We don't
Okay.
always have to be telling,
The
like the
same
same
story.
stories.
Yeah.
Just to quickly touch on that point, it's so interesting to me that people would feel like that because the essence of books and movies is imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm.
you can literally take those five friends,
Yeah.
change their salaries,
Yeah.
and put them and
In a
relate to
different,
them.
Exactly.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
but I guess that's the journey you're on because a lot of people didn't even have any imagination before. Now with that movie, there's
Mm,
one step further. Someone will probably produce another thing that
Yeah.
relates better to
Everything
yeah.
them,
can't be for
and
everyone, which
it
is just
can't.
Yeah.
the whole point of creativity
I
and
think
It's
so.
content.
such an
Yeah.
important thing. And I
Yeah.
think that that is such an important conversation to have because
Mhm.
I find that it's not even just in Nollywood or
Mhm.
Africa,
Mhm.
even in Hollywood,
Yeah.
they've gotten to a point now where everything has to be so inclusive. Like every piece of
Yes.
content
Yeah.
has to represent
Yeah,
Yes, everybody, or
everybody.
not
And
to
I'm
everybody.
just
offend
like,
everybody. Yeah,
why?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
we've stifled
yeah,
creativity in a
yeah,
way that like is
Mm,
like it now has to
yeah,
fit everyone in.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't think that every single piece of content has to appeal to
Everybody. Yeah,
everybody.
yeah,
yeah.
Sometimes like conflict is meant to trigger, is meant to
Mhm.
mm-hmm.
annoy.
Mhm.
Sometimes, and I laugh sometimes with Smart Money Woman, where because with season 2 when we dropped we were dropping it weekly on
Mm-hmm,
YouTube.
mm-hmm,
So the comments, like people come on my page and
I
say,
went to read
why
some of
is
them.
Shola doing XYZ? And
yeah,
I'm like, guys, characters are flawed because
yes,
human
are
beings
flawed.
are flawed.
Flawed.
Yes,
They're no perfect people. And the
yeah,
idea
yeah,
that we
yeah,
have to create
yeah,
perfect
yeah.
characters doesn't resonate with
But
me.
I love that discourse because it's very much I think it validates you as a creative
But
person
that
when
was what you
people,
wanted, right?
yes,
Because the
Yeah.
style
yes,
of your writing and the style of the characters
yeah,
begs for people to start to put themselves in
it
their
triggers
position,
relation, it triggers
Yeah.
try to remember which
conversations.
friend is this, which
Yes,
friend
yes.
is that. So,
Yeah.
So I remember vividly. And the thing is, I feel like I've followed your journey for a while. So when it
hmm
first started as a book,
Mm.
and now like what I even want to kind of touch on is the evolution of how it went from a book.
the idea, yes.
Yes, because the
Mm.
idea is what we're talking about
So
now.
she wrote the book.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
After that,
And wrote it with a specific like a specific direction and a
yes,
specific purpose. So
yes,
you are going to learn about finances and building your financial literacy, but I'm doing it in a
in a
relatable way.
different
Yeah.
way,
Yes,
in
which
a
which is
way.
the first thing I liked.
Another thing I liked about that idea going into a book was you were able to draw up different people. Usually,
Yeah.
when you watch a movie, you're forced to take a summary
Yeah.
and
Mm.
close it. Whereas with this, what one girl is doing, what another person is doing, you
Mm-hmm.
can kind of, it kind of elongates the entire story constantly.
And for me, I think it also created a sense of ownership. Like there
Mm.
was somebody I could relate to in the book.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's funny because if I read the book now, I will relate to a different character because I'm in a
Mm.
different
Because you're
place
in
in
a
my
different
life.
Yeah.
place
Yes,
as
but it
well.
just made me feel like, oh, this is a book written for me to understand.
Yes.
But their lessons, their key takeaways.
Yes. And
So please go ahead.
okay. Arisa, was a book not enough for the idea?
Hmm.
Why a film next?
So interesting because I feel like this entire career that I have created for myself has been born out of just recognizing opportunities.
Mm,
Like I don't know that anything is like super planned ahead. So for
Mm,
example, when I was writing the book, I just wanted to write a book, but I was visualizing
mm,
as I was writing, like, if this was a movie, what
mm,
would it like look like? But
mm,
if I'm being completely honest, I wasn't writing and thinking, oh my God, I'm going to turn this into a movie. That would
mm,
have even been so ridiculous to
mm,
me.
mm,
Like, but I did, but you know how things come full circle?
yeah.
Like, so for example, when I was writing, so Zuri is a Bini girl because I'm
Mm,
very big on representing my culture
yeah. As you
in
should.
my writing.
Yeah.
love that.
And I kept thinking, okay, if someone's going to play her in a movie,
Mhm.
who would play her? And I kept thinking Osasi Godaro
Mhm.
while
Mm,
I was writing. But at the time, I did not plan to make a movie.
Mm.
But then, but my goal was I want this book to be of lean proportions. I remember saying this to my mentor, Tara Feladrotoe.
Mhm.
mm,
She was like, what's your goal for this book? Like, what do you want to happen? And I was like, you know how Sheryl Sandberg's um
Leaning.
leaning
Mhm.
basically like
mm,
sparked
Yeah, it did.
conversation
It really
around
did.
it
Yeah.
women
did
in the
Mhm.
workplace. I
Mhm.
want this book to
to
spark
do that.
conversation.
Mhm.
I want people to talk about it the way they talk about Real Housewives of Atlanta. I don't want
Mm,
to write a book to just say, oh, I wrote a book and it's like something that no one reads,
Yeah.
right? So that was my initial goal. And then it did so well. Like the response was like
Mm.
so positive.
Mhm.
I was getting like messages from women in South Africa, in
Mhm.
Ghana, in Tanzania. And then I was like, okay, do you know what? Let me do a book tour,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
okay.
I
And
remember
So we
that.
went from the idea
To the
to the
book,
book to a
to the
book
tour.
tour.
that was
Mhm.
Pan African.
I'm
Wow.
literally going on a
We're charting the
I'm
journey.
literally
Yeah.
Yes.
charting a journey.
So we
Yes.
literally like so obviously we started in Lagos. We had
Mhm.
all these different cute events around the country. So Port Harcourt, Abuja, all of that. And then women started reaching out to me from South Africa, Kenya, and I was like, in my head, when I was doing the book tour, if I'm being completely honest, I planned to do Lagos and Accra. And I even thought that was already like a big deal. But then someone reached out to me from South Africa and was like, "Come, bring this thing here." And I was like, is she crazy? Nobody knows me in
Me
South
in South
Africa. Like,
Africa,
why would
yeah.
I? Like, why? Like, but then when you put your heads together and you start to strategize and plan and see how you can collaborate with whether venues. So Judith Lamini, one of the wealthiest women in South Africa, she agreed to give me her space, that was
Wow.
called Luminance at the time. So she basically sponsored like my South African
Wow.
book tour,
Wow.
because she provided the space, she provided the canapes, and
Wow.
and then I think I got a drinks brand like to support it.
Mm.
And
It
that
came
for me,
together.
Yeah.
yeah. And then I was on a media run, going on SABC,
Mm.
all of these things in South Africa. And for me, that was a real turning point in saying that,
There's
these
something here.
stories, these stories resonate with
Mm-hmm.
more than just Nigerian
Mm-hmm.
women. Because whether
Mm.
it was someone who, you know, was experiencing their own form of black tax,
Mm.
right? Like, that was not necessarily the Nigerian experience, but was like, I'm a first generation post apartheid child who my family is relying on me for financial freedom, for financial like stability. And in South Africa, the systems are different. They have access to credit cards and whatever. And but basically relating to Lara from the premise of I'm in debt because I have to look after this
My
family. So
family.
even
Mm-hmm.
before I've earned my first real year salary, like I'm
Mm.
already like in
Mm.
debt. So it's like you're
Mm.
out of the gates, you're, like in minus.
Mm.
So hearing these stories, right? It's like whether I went to Nairobi, and that's another thing that was interesting about the book tour. By the time I was halfway through the book tour, right, the book had been pirated
Oh
digitally.
my
Oh
God.
So,
gosh.
for
Are
example,
you
by the time I got to
serious?
very serious, by the time I got to Kenya, and I'm talking to a group of women in like 500 women.
Yeah.
The interesting thing was like half of them had already read the book because it was
Wow.
pirated, but still wanted to come to the event because they
Mm.
wanted to have
That
the
conversation.
conversation,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So I went to Dar es Salaam, I
Oh
went to
my goodness.
Mozambique,
What?
I went
Wow.
to like it was an amazing experience. But
Mm.
that Pan African book tour basically showed me that there was
There was
something
something more.
more
Mm-hmm.
there. And
Mm-hmm.
everyone kept saying, I could totally see this as a movie.
Mm.
When I was reading it, I could totally see it as a
Mm.
movie. And I thought, are these people mad? Like you want me to
To
go
make
and
a
make a movie. Like
movie,
I
After
started
I've
getting,
written a book.
DMs like shit. And I thought,
like we
these
barely
people are
just got
not okay.
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, these people are not okay. But then I started thinking about it and I was like, let me actually investigate this a little bit.
Mm.
So I remember I called Tola Odunsi and I'm like, if I was going to make my book into go into like this production thing, what would it look like? He gave me some advice. I called Aki Marino, who is
Mm.
also my friend from primary school, who had a production company as well,
Mm.
and was like, okay, if we did this, this is what it would look like.
Mm-hmm.
I called Kemi Adetiba and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
bro, if I want to make this into a movie, what does it look
Mm-hmm.
like? And I remember she read the book on her way to the airport and she called me to say, I said, is it you that wrote this book?
Like, let me check again.
and then
That's
and then
funny.
I thought, and then when we started talking about like if this was going to be a movie or a series, she was like, I think the format would be better as
The
a
series.
series than
Yeah.
a movie,
Yeah.
because
Mm,
if you did each episode as
Mm.
a chapter, it would
Mm.
bang
A bit
like
harder. Yeah.
harder.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
So
amazing.
I basically started developing like that idea
Mm.
and trying to figure out, okay, if I was going to do this, what would it look like? What would the business model, be? And at the time, Netflix was like it was like a ghost. Like the only things
Mm.
Mm,
that were on Netflix that were Nigerian were
I remember
maybe
that
like
period as well.
Genevieve's movie
Yes.
Yes,
Lionheart,
Lion
That wedding
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 movie.
Party. There
Yes.
Party.
was like
Yes.
maybe three items, and we're
Yes.
so
Yes.
grateful for those three
Yes. Yes.
items.
Exactly.
I
Yes.
remember
Yes.
So
very
it's like you're
vividly.
making a series and the business model to make a series at the time wasn't really clear.
Mm.
Mm,
So the only players were like Africa Magic, and then they would basically take your content and maybe pay you 250,000. This is another thing that was not, uh, the math was not mathing. I would go
Mm-hmm.
to producers and say, how much do you think it will cost to create this? And they'll say something like 40 to 60 million, right? And then it's like, okay, so what will the revenue now be?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I
Silence.
go, and then it's like, oh, African Magic will pay you 250,000 per episode. And it's
Ah,
like,
What?
huh?
how does that
Like, how
work?
does that work? So I had to start thinking very creatively. And I thought, you know what? Maybe I'm looking at this wrong.
Mm,
Like, what are the brands that would benefit from being associated with something that has already been successful as a book?
mm-hmm.
So I went to First Bank. First Bank now became the financial sponsor. Unilever, Virgin Atlantic,
Wow.
MasterCard. And I literally, um, and Pernod Ricard, I
Mm.
literally basically took the brand money
Mm-hmm.
and used it to produce the show in exchange for advertising and product placements.
Yes,
Wow,
So
that's
that
on
makes
so
sense.
Africa Magic,
Yeah.
yeah, I bought
interesting.
the airtime because I was like,
Mm.
okay, don't license it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll buy the airtime for 13
Mm.
weeks
Mm-hmm.
and then I will put it on it.
Yeah.
And then after 13 weeks, I take
That's
my content
yeah,
back.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So the way that I monetized it was like through the
Advertising,
brands,
yeah.
yeah. And so that now became like my proof of concept. And I was like, okay,
Mm.
this could work. Like this could actually,
Mm-hmm.
work. And at the time, brands weren't really interested in product placement in
I
They
was
Nigeria.
didn't
so I was
understand
so
Yeah.
it.
I
I
was
was
so
actually
shocked.
just
Yeah.
about to
Yes.
ask
And I
that
loved, I loved the way that was infused into the
into
brand.
Mm,
it.
I mean,
Yes.
into the series. There were several things that I noticed that you had been very intentional about,
yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
that was product placement, but you infused it into the story.
Mm,
And obviously, if you've read the book, certain things
yeah.
had to be tweaked to allow
yeah.
for
Mm-hmm.
that to
Yeah.
happen. But I thought it was really interesting. And, you were talking about monetization, and I was thinking about how you've spoken about the idea. You've taken us on the journey,
Yeah.
such an exciting journey of how you basically proved that your concept was going to work.
Mm,
You've now gone to the banks and the organizations, you've gotten funding, you've somehow convinced them that they're going to get advertising
mm,
value from it. So this brings me to the business behind an idea, because you can have an idea, you can
mm,
execute an idea, but then the truth is, how do you sustain that
yeah.
idea?
Mm-hmm.
How do you make it sustainable? And for me, in this context, sustainability is okay, you've done season one.
Mm-hmm.
What is next?
Yeah.
Season two.
Mm.
Did the financial concept from season one work for season two?
Yes and no. So
Mm.
so the first run on African Magic, like having that first window and funding it through product placement and brands, was my proof of concept.
Mm-hmm.
And then a year later, we got a licensing deal with Netflix for
Mm-hmm.
2 years,
Mm-hmm.
which was so exciting because it meant that more
Would
people
Would
see.
say.
would
And
see
that's
Yeah.
it.
for
Yeah.
still for the first season.
I
Yeah.
have to
Okay.
say that also Toby and I, we didn't really know each other that much, but
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget when it came out on Netflix, she sent me a cake and flowers.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
I
was
was
so
just like,
happy.
I was so happy.
Yeah.
Toby loves to celebrate
Like
excellence.
it was so
Yes.
sweet because she
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, I'm going to be honest, I didn't really know what you were doing with this whole smart money
That's
Yeah.
thing.
what I
But
said.
Yeah.
but seeing it like
Yeah.
evolve like
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
like, and I was like, wow, this is really, really
Yeah.
like cool. So I
Yeah.
really like appreciated
Mm.
that.
No.
Um, but yeah, like it went on Netflix and we were in the top 10 for
Mm.
like
I remember.
13
I was
weeks.
so
We went to
happy.
number one like immediately. Like
Mm.
the I can't even explain to you like the way like it felt because people
Mm-hmm.
were calling my parents, my
Mm.
mentors, anybody that
I
was
used the series to actually help a lot of my London friends. A lot
mm,
of my female friends who lived abroad and were kind of feeling stuck in the
Mm.
rat
yeah.
race, or sometimes they would look at my life in Lagos and send me messages that, oh, Toby, I want more, I want to. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, 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 no.
Mm.
Please don't let, like, all
Yeah.
what I'm showing
Mm,
Yeah.
fool you.
Yeah.
However, there's this new series
Mm.
online. Like,
mm,
I think you should all watch
Mm.
it. What that
Mm-hmm.
gave them was, first of all, it opened everyone's mind because I felt like the British or London environment does not, it's a bit more cagey.
Mm.
I don't
mm,
think it's as community driven as a country like Nigeria, in my opinion. So it's a more closed door approach. Everyone is in their kind of little
little
houses doing their
houses.
thing. And I felt like when I kept telling a lot of my friends to watch the series, number one, they connected back to Nigeria. Number
Mm.
two, they connected back to who they are.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to kind of redefine their friendship circles
I love
a little
that
bit.
so
Mm-hmm.
much.
And that was why I sent
Yeah.
it, because for me it was having a touch point to have people, and also it made me feel good because I was this Nigerian girl, and every time I would say, have you watched this Nigerian movie on Netflix? It made me feel so good because finally things were
Yeah.
coming out of the continent that
That,
We
yeah.
could
I
be
was
proud of.
genuinely
Yeah.
proud,
Do
like
Yeah.
you
my
know?
shoulder was high.
Do you know why? Okay, so I watched the first episode because, and I think a lot of my friends, we were like, support. We're gonna watch
Mm.
it with from. We're
There's
Yeah.
that as
supporting
well,
you.
yes,
You know.
exactly.
And then I kept watching it, and I'm not gonna lie because I'm kind of like, it's hard to find a certain caliber
Mm.
or level of excellence in
Mm.
content that is put out. So you're like, okay, skeptical. I watched the first episode and I was like, okay. After that, I was like, I kept watching it because I was so proud. I'm not even joking.
You
Thank
don't even
And
you.
and there
understand.
was an
I believe you.
intentionality, and I know this is
Yeah.
your sister talking that did
Mm.
this. There was an intentionality with even the aesthetics and
The
the fashion,
Mhm.
fashion.
the fashion, and
The
it was
fashion.
I thought it was so cute because it's like these are brands I
I know,
know,
Oh
like these are brands
yeah.
I
like
wear.
you.
These are
Yeah.
it's and then seeing it on screen and thinking that some Angela in Los Angeles is going to see this
Mhm.
dress and be like, oh my god, I
From
love
a
that
lady
dress.
who is not a movie film. I was thinking the entire time when I sent you that,
Mm.
all I was thinking was how much tears
Mm.
and the
The
pain you
intentionality.
have
I
had
just
to
Yeah.
kept
go
thinking.
through.
I kept thinking. Arisa did so many things specifically for this to come onto our
To the
Netflix
life.
screens. Do you
Yeah.
understand? And it kind of made me want to do better.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
I
you.
it's
Like
wanted
that
you
good.
to
really makes
I
me.
Yeah,
wanted you to feel good. I
yeah.
wanted you to know
You
that
made me feel so good.
all
That is
those
a memory that I
tears
will
was
keep
worth
forever. Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Like all I could think of was the back end. We're business owners ourselves.
Mm.
For every excellence we put out,
Mm.
for every time we sit
Psh,
on this couch,
girl.
we know what it takes to be
Yeah.
here. It's the tugs, the scheduling,
Yeah.
the timing, the guests,
Mhm.
the fights, the agreeing and disagreeing on
Mhm.
different things. For every time we sit here, we have conquered something.
Mm.
Seeing that show, I was like, my God,
Mm.
the meetings,
Mm.
the
Even the
going
things that failed,
the filming, who
Mhm.
cameras
did
that
she
broke,
approach?
Yeah.
The
flights that were delayed, things
producer, where
like
did she
that.
get money
Yeah,
from?
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
That's all I was thinking. And I was
Do you
like, she
know?
deserves to feel good.
yeah.
Thank you. But I have to say, like you mentioning my sister is okay
Mhm.
is actually that was one of the biggest like success factors for me
Hmm.
Mm.
because fashion was his own character
It
Mhm.
and
It was.
was,
Isoke understands
She does.
yes.
fashion.
Yeah.
For season one, she literally did all of the wardrobe management and the creative direction
Mhm.
for every single like mood board, every single
Mhm.
scene
Jeez.
from Toronto.
Wow.
So it
Wow.
meant she was awake when we were sleeping. She
Mm.
was awake while we were working. Like it
Mm.
was tough. I
Mm.
remember my parents calling me to say, "What are you doing to our daughter?"
Yes.
Mm.
But like she has such a brilliant mind and vision when it comes to this stuff. And it
Mm.
was such an amazing like experience getting to do this with her.
Mm.
Mm.
And with a book, right? Like you're basically sitting in front of your laptop and you're
Imagining.
figuring it out
Mm.
yourself.
Mm.
And it's like a you project,
Mhm.
right? And maybe collaborative efforts with your editor, right? But with a film, is like you're collaborating with 50 different people. The actors have perspectives. The
Mm.
DOP has their own perspective. The director has their own perspective.
Mhm.
Turning something from what you've written to film is a completely different ball
Of
game because you have
course.
Can
things like you
imagine.
might have written something elaborate in the book,
Yeah.
but in
Yeah.
reality it's not
Can it
something
work?
that you can
Yes. Show on
execute.
camera.
So
Yeah.
for example, like I just like you don't know how excited I am that I just finished writing Lara Unlimited
Yeah.
because I've been so naughty. I wrote the book no, I made the film
Before you wrote
before
the
I
You
book.
wrote the
wrote the
book.
book.
Mhm.
And I had the idea in like December to say I'm gonna make this thing a book
Mhm.
first,
Mhm.
right? And release it for International Women's Day
Mhm.
Mm.
before like the film comes out. But then we got this opportunity with Samsung
Mhm.
where
Mm.
we shot the
With the
with the
phone.
phone. So we
Mm.
got to shoot the film on a phone. But you know how
Wow.
you're trying to make a low budget movie
Mm.
like based off of like this, grand idea.
Mhm.
And I feel like it did well enough for what it was.
Yeah.
But writing this book,
Mhm.
I was just like, oh my God, this is the movie that I should have made. Like, as in doing
Mm.
it backwards, like
Mm.
That's so
changing, like turning a
interesting.
cinematic experience to prose. Like, it's so different. But I was so excited, like, writing this. And it is,
Has that ever been done before?
I don't
Wonder. I
know.
I
was
mean, no, I need to.
I
Sorry, I
was
had to
actually
stop that
thinking
moment
about
because
that.
we can't just let that go past.
Yeah.
I can't think of any film or series that then
Mm.
goes back into a book. So potentially you could be starting something interesting there
Could
as
be.
well.
I'm excited to see how, like, where it goes, because I feel like it's so much better as some of my best work. And what I was very apprehensive about
Mhm.
was after the film, like, I wrote the script, I liked it, but
Mm.
I didn't love it, right?
Mm.
But with the book, I got to, like, explore, expand. I can write
Mm.
about Dubai and Berlin and not
Mhm.
have to execute it in film,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Because with a book, you get to be as crazy as you like, as in, but with film,
Mhm.
like when you now write a Dubai scene, you're
How
going to have to figure
realistic are
out
you
So
going
how
to?
basically, Arisa
you're
is
going
saying the next
to.
movie needs a bigger budget.
It sure
Yes,
You
does.
heard,
yes,
guys.
yes,
So
yes.
But yeah.
investors, bring this money out. No, on this topic of, I love that Timmy asked you the question about funding. So when
Mm,
you first started, like Timmy said, a lot of women identified with the characters. So your
yeah.
idea touched people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You then developed it into a series which
Mm,
touched further people.
mm.
Would you then say that your idea, what would you categorize your idea as? Would you say it is influencing, shaping, impacting young girls and how they view money? So do you say, I don't, what's the question I'm trying to ask?
I think what I do
Yes.
is tell stories that have an impact, that spark conversations about
Mhm.
Detail.
important topics.
Mhm.
And Small Money Woman happened to be about financial literacy and
Right.
financial education. Lara Unlimited happens to be about less about financial literacy and more about the emotional and professional aspects of
Mhm.
being an African woman in corporate.
Love
Yeah.
that.
Like the
Love
battles that you
that.
Yeah,
have to,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yo.
yeah,
face,
yeah, yeah,
things like emotional intelligence, like
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
in the workplace,
yeah.
how the double standard when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to how women respond to things as opposed to how men respond to things, and just n- navigating what a woman like Lara would deal with in a workplace, whether it's things like being accused of sleeping with your boss because you're doing well,
Mm-hmm.
or people being happy for you to do all of the work but not compensate you for the work that you've done, right? Like navigating all of that, the emotional um weight of navigating um being a woman in corporate.
Yeah. Arisa,
Mm,
you've been speaking. Every time you speak, what stands out to me is the fact that I can't ignore the fact that you do have a business acumen.
thank
It
Mm.
is
you.
very present.
Mhm.
And I want to ask this question. Is the evolution of your idea as a result of your background, or is it pure passion? And I have to ask that question because with a
Mm,
lot of people want to set up something. So
yeah.
they think an idea. A lot of people die with their ideas. A lot of people end up developing their ideas. But what I always explain to people is from idea to impact is a very long journey
Mm,
a lot
Mhm.
of the times. And most times I feel like for you to execute that very well, there's a level of experience,
mm,
learning, or education that kind of funds and pushes
Mhm.
that idea. So, would
mm.
you say this evolution you have experienced with the ideas that come to your head, would you say they're able to go on this impactful journey because of your background in business and generally your background in understanding structure and wanting things to work?
So I'll say this. I've been blessed because, like, I know what my skill sets are and I've been able to marry them to help me execute my goals.
Mhm.
But I don't know that is necessarily about my specific skill sets.
Okay.
I think it is about everybody really knowing what am I good at
Mm.
and what am I
Mm.
well placed to do,
Mm.
and having the resilience to be able to say, this is my idea, this is how I have to execute, this is
Mm.
my goal,
Mhm.
and understanding that regardless of what business acumen you have
Mm.
or what specific skills you have, you're going to have obstacles. And I think what is more important is having the mindset and the resilience to be able to say, "Do you know what, no matter what is in front of me, no matter what the obstacle is, I'm going to get through to the other side."
Okay.
Because some people
So
might,
grit.
be grit. Grit, I think, is the most important thing. Some people might be good at other aspects of
Mm.
making a film, right? And that can get them through.
Okay.
Some
That's a good
people, yeah,
point.
Okay.
That's a
some
great
I
people,
like
point.
that.
Yeah.
So it
yeah,
could be, it doesn't have to be business focused.
yeah,
So it could be that you're a great filmmaker and you had the idea and you could have still gone on this journey,
journey.
basically.
For sure. I think it's about really knowing what your skills are, what your own particular skills are, and then finding ways to plug where your weaknesses are. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, I remember being interviewed by Aston Business School, like my alumni, and they were like, when you were at Aston, did you think that you were going to be a writer and a
Hell
filmmaker? And I was
no.
like, huh?
I was
It was
crying.
not even
Trying to
like,
just get my
it
second
was
class
not,
As
upper.
do
in,
you get, like,
like,
it wasn't even in my mind. Like, but I really did by learning. So all those things that I was talking about, I was learning from everyone, I was having conversations with as many people who had worked in film and learning from their experiences. I was learning from the technical people on my team and my
yeah.
So
crew,
constant.
so that I could figure it out. Like, so I needed to understand all the different aspects of it, whether it was production, whether it was direction, whether it
Mm.
was, what the cinematographer has to do, because you have a vision
Mm.
and you're working with like 50 people to bring it to life. Like, even with the actresses, I might have written the book, but
But
I'll
they
tell
you
you
needed a
Yeah.
cast
the
Yeah.
to
kind of conversations that I have with Osas, with
Mm.
Tony, with um Inni. It's like, okay, Arse, they can even call me in the middle of the night and say, Arse, this scene, it doesn't feel true to Tami. I feel
Mm.
like she
Mm.
would do XYZ. And I'll laugh sometimes because it's not typical like for Nollywood or for production for actors to have that level of input. But I loved it because I felt like it made the work better.
Mm.
And it was a collaborative effort where it's like, I wrote this character, but you're so invested in playing the character
Mm.
that you almost know what she's going to do, what she can do, and what she can't do. So it's a collaborative effort,
All
and
I
you're
see
learning.
there is a different type of production.
Do you
Do you
Mm,
know what
understand?
I
Because
see?
I feel like you're starting a new lane
Mm.
that is
yeah.
very essential for a country like Nigeria that is still in the developing stage of things, or we're still in
Mm,
the introductory stage of a lot of industries. Because all I'm hearing is we can have everyone in the creative industries has to
Mhm.
create things
Mhm.
differently. Like the
yeah.
part where you said that actors would call you in the middle of the night,
Mm,
that's different, probably even different
mm,
for them as well. And that probably also is obvious or is present because of the type of movie it is actually more
mm,
educational.
Do you know, you just mentioned something, and this I actually just remember. So last year, we
yeah.
had a conference for
Yeah.
SMEs, and
Mm-hmm.
we ideated this panel, and I was really passionate about this particular panel because I wanted it to be just around the creative sector.
Got you.
And we were like, who should we bring? Who are the speakers? And I was like, wait a minute.
Where's
I'm going
Arisa?
to bring the whole smart money ecosystem
Oh, you
onto the panel.
Yeah,
Yes,
that
it
amazing. Did
was
you
was
so
bring
a
much fun.
everyone?
almost everyone,
We
right?
brought
We
we
had
brought
Osas.
Osas.
That's really
We had,
Yeah.
and it was
cool.
called the Smart
Yeah.
Money Woman series panel, and it was
Yes.
Yes.
about the creative sector. And the reason
Mm,
I'm bringing this up is because you've talked about the collaboration and learning and everybody having their strengths, but you haven't really spoken about the operation,
I do you know
mm.
I've been waiting for us
like
to get into,
the
that's why I asked that the question
operation
about the
and
Yeah.
the
business.
processes, and
Yes.
because you guys actually, each of you had mentioned about how it was a business.
Yeah.
You ran it like a business, because we
Mhm.
were talking to small businesses to say that if
Yeah.
you want to go into something, you can't just go with an
And
idea.
that's genuinely
Mm.
why
You
I asked the
have to,
question, that I
yeah.
wonder if having like a little sprinkle of business
You
and structure, or I
Mm.
helped,
wondered if
yeah.
that helped, because it very much feels like a business led or structure led
Mm-hmm.
production
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
or
So
creativity.
this is the
Yes.
thing, yeah. It was definitely I was very, business model focused, but
Mm,
I would say that it was also very, very chaotic because
mm,
my I want to say tox my toxic side is that I can have an idea, right? Like, even when I'm writing, I'm thinking about the biggest, grandest possible version of what I want to do.
Okay.
And then I will pare it down in production based off of what is realistic.
Got it.
So, for example, for season 2 of Small Money Woman, I wanted it to be bigger and better.
Mm.
And in the script, I wrote all these big scenes, a cathedral, a funeral reception. I wanted things that were like authentically Nigerian,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I also had this grand idea that I was going to shoot in South Africa.
Mm.
So we shot in Joburg, Cape Town, and Lagos.
Mm.
Now, it's a nice idea. It's great to write it on paper, but then it now becomes a few things. How am I going to fund this? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a partnership. I got a partnership with the South African Tourism Board,
Yeah.
and
I
they
think I saw
funded
that.
Yeah.
part of that.
Yeah.
Like, so we were able to go to South Africa.
Yeah.
But then you see, you have these fantastic ideas. They seem like they're
Finality.
great on
Yeah.
paper, but operationally,
Operationally.
so for example, unfortunately, it was at a time when they were not really giving visas.
Mm.
And we had to fly everyone from Lagos to Abuja because the South African embassy in Nigeria was closed for in Lagos was closed for renovations. So that was maybe like
That's an
2
extra
million,
cost
2
that
million
you did
naira,
not
3 million
plan
naira.
I
That was
personally
not.
for.
can't.
It was not
I
in the
would.
budget, but
Wow.
we had to
You
figure
do.
it
Yeah.
out.
You had
We
to.
fly people to go and get visas
Yeah.
and fly them back to Lagos,
Yeah.
and then the visas don't come out on time.
Mm.
And literally, a 10-day production that we had planned for South Africa turned into maybe 5 or 6 days. So we had to like compress everything
Gosh.
into those 5 or 6 days. The actors hated me because it
Mm.
was like they were literally getting off a plane and going on a boat,
Mm.
to shoot.
Mm.
But unfortunately, like you have to keep making hard decisions
Decisions.
because
Yeah.
on one hand, you're like sad that you're putting these people through
Mm.
this sort of hell. But at
Mm.
the same time, we've paid thousands of dollars to
Mm.
book
We need to
a
shoot
a
it.
boat
Yeah.
Yes.
like in Cape Town
Yeah.
that if we don't shoot it today, that money is
Gone.
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 Yeah.
There were venues we lost quite a bit in terms of,
Mm.
so for example, the venues that didn't like that we had already pre-booked when we
Mm.
were planning,
Mm.
right? Because the visas didn't come out on time, it meant we needed to change venues because they were no longer available, and then you
Mm.
lose your
Your
deposits.
deposit. Yeah.
So, or weather issues, like we want to
Mm.
shoot a helicopter scene and
It's
we make
raining.
Tony Tones wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning, like to get her makeup done and prepare for the scene and drag her to the heliport thing. And then the weather is a
Oh
disaster.
my
And we
God.
have another shoot that we have to do in the winelands. So it's basically now creative thinking like on the spot to make operational things work.
Wow.
Yeah.
So for example, this helicopter thing that I'm talking about, like there were things like, oh my god, Jeed, my South African cinematography, I owe him my life. Like
Wow.
my sorry cinematographer,
Mm-hmm.
I owe him my life because honestly, when someone is a creative thinker like on the spot,
Mm.
so things like that helicopter thing, we're supposed to shoot it early hours of the morning. We had a time slot,
Mm.
but because of the weather, we're able to like negotiate with them to say, you know what, we're going to go to the winelands, we'll shoot that first, and then we're going to split people up, and people will now go back to go and shoot
The
like the
The
helicopter.
helicopter
Yeah.
helicopter
scene
scene.
later on in the day. But we now had to move things around. So operationally, so from a producer point of view, I'm having to solve all these problems from
Mm.
like a helicopter like
View.
view, right? But individually, an actress is stressed
Mm.
because bruh, you
Mm.
woke me up at 3 a.m. in the morning
Mm.
and now we're not shooting.
Mm. That's also something
That's a
to deal with.
problem.
Yeah.
Like logistics
Yeah.
issues,
Yeah.
like there's so many different things, and you have these grand ideas.
Yeah.
You go from the idea to execution, and you want to do it on this grand scale that you don't technically have the budget for,
Mm.
but you're trying to figure it out. It can get chaotic, it can
Mm.
get messy.
Mm.
But I like to say that like creating 17 episodes of 2 seasons and 17 episodes of a genre that basically did not exist,
Exist. Yeah.
right?
It did
Has
not
been a
exist.
learning, it's been
Mm.
a learning curve.
Mm.
I've had to learn on the job.
Mm.
It hasn't always been perfect. I'd probably annoy a lot of people, but we get it done,
Mm.
at the end of the day. And I'm grateful for everyone that
Yeah.
like saw the vision and still, came on board and went with it even when everything was going to shit.
So
But yeah.
Wow. How, God, there's like so much to unpack. I guess if I was a creative and I have an idea and I call you,
Mm.
Arisa, now, what would be what would be the thing you tell me to watch out for as a threat? And what would be the thing you would tell me to make sure I capitalize on? As a creative that has an idea and want to kind of go on the
Mm-hmm.
same journey as you right now.
I think I would say don't limit yourself.
Okay.
I would say make your vision as big as possible and then worry about executing it
I
after.
like that a
Because
lot.
sometimes we're stifled by fear. I'll even be
Mm,
honest, like I feel like with Lara Unlimited, the film that is on YouTube, I feel like because I had come from such a low point when season 2 didn't come get on Netflix, and I was now trying to figure out what my distribution, plan was going to be going forward if I was going to do this film thing. I feel like if I'm being completely honest, I was writing it from a place of survival as
mm,
opposed to
that
creativity.
big.
So I wasn't the way I'm saying I'm so excited about the
But the
book,
book,
Mm-hmm.
like I
yes.
feel like this is good work, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
this is work that's reflective of the kind of work that I want to do, right? But with the film, I felt like, you know what? I want to test out this YouTube thing and we have this opportunity and we have this timeline and we just have to get it done, right? And
I see.
it comes out and it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I
So
always see
don't
these
limit
things as
yourself. I love
Yeah,
that
yeah,
so much.
absolutely.
Like don't let the
fear
the
Fear
fears,
stifle
control.
the
Yeah, yeah,
environment,
your
yeah.
what you have
creativity.
now. Okay. I love that.
Mm.
And what would be a threat
To watch out
to
for.
watch out for?
Honestly, planning, like
Mm-hmm.
pre-planning. Not to
Hmm.
say that you're not pre-planning just so that you can see everything.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I like to do best case scenario,
Mm-hmm.
Worst case scenario.
mid case scenario, worst case scenario, and hope for the best case scenario, but be
Be prepared
prepared
for
For
each of
for
them.
mid and
each of the
worst.
obstacles.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because things like with a film, right? It's like if you don't have that grit and resilience, you could literally like lose everything because you can start a story you can't finish.
Mm.
Because once you stop, if something happens or goes wrong and you're not able to navigate it to get to the next um you know part of it or the
Mm-hmm.
next part of
Mm-hmm.
execution, it can literally like halt everything, and that
Everything.
becomes even expensive because you've gone through all of this to now have an incomplete project,
Yeah.
right? So
Crazy.
you have to actually
This was
figure it
so
out.
fun.
It
Like I feel
was.
like even hearing you talk, I was also reminded of my journey of when
Mm.
an idea starts. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things we always say to a lot of people is for people to mind the gap between vision and actual. And I think you have reiterated that a few times, which is I have this idea, this is what I've put out. And there's a journey
Mm-hmm.
between that either works out for better
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
or you just adjust accordingly. That's so
And I
mm,
interesting.
think what I've taken away from it is truly just grit, because in the beginning when
Mm-hmm.
Arisa said she had written some articles and then she was afraid to put them out there,
mm.
Mm-hmm.
and then where she is right now is like there's a huge chasm in between. But it's like, okay, grit,
And
right?
she always
Like
laughed
you,
every time someone
everything
told her
like,
she was going to do the
really,
next thing. She's
you
like,
know.
are you
And now look at
crazy?
her,
And now
right?
look at
So
her.
my whole thing is honestly for creatives out there, like
Great.
including any creative project that I'm even working on, I always have to tell myself to have grit, because it's so easy to be afraid of what people are going to
Mm,
perceive or respond to, feedback,
Mm-hmm.
and it's especially with creatives. I find
I
yeah.
it's
agree.
more so because it's almost it's objective.
Because you don't know how people are
Mm,
going to
you
receive
don't.
Yes,
it.
yes.
You
It's
don't.
it's sorry, it's subjective. Like you are the one who is putting out your creativity into the
Mm-hmm.
world. You're telling them a story. You're putting your
Yeah.
knowledge out there. You're
It
putting your
it makes
IP
you
It
out
feels so
there.
vulnerable. Yeah.
open.
So vulnerable. But then the thing is, I find grit to be a good like good medicine for vulnerability, because yes, you're vulnerable, but at the end of the day, if you just kind of power through, and there will be problems, and those problems kind of drive you back into your shell,
Mm,
like, oh my god, maybe I shouldn't have done
I've
this.
done this.
But then just forging ahead,
Timmy, do you
and
know
that
what I'm
grit
hearing
is,
from this as well? It's not just grit. Is grit
yeah.
and renewing that grit
Yeah.
at every
Yeah.
Yeah,
point,
Yeah.
for
because at some
sure.
Yeah.
point that grit can run low in battery.
Yeah.
Or
At
you're
some
just
time,
like,
and you're like,
why
Why?
did
have I
Why did
not
I
I?
given
decide
enough
to
grit?
do
Yes.
Then you
this?
have to
Yes.
reload
Yeah.
Yes.
and rebuild that
Of
grit
But I think
again.
course.
another thing that is super important, and I really think that this is one of my superpowers, is the ability to
Mm.
take constructive criticism.
Mm.
Like, so I love feedback,
Mm.
but I feel like I'm a little bit different in that when I put out work, I like to put out work that I'm sure of, like to a certain extent. So if even if I think the thing is imperfect, I already know what is imperfect before
Mm.
like anybody else tells me,
Mhm.
right? But I'm always very interested in other perspectives
Mhm.
so that like it can make my work better. So you
Mm,
can tell me something and I have the ability to take your feedback without taking it personally, removing what is not
Which is
important,
very important.
you know,
Yeah.
to me,
and
and
hearing
hearing
the
what is
f-
important
Yeah.
that helps my work.
Yeah.
Do you know that there are
that is a
people I
fantastic
have
trait.
friends in
Mhm.
my life,
Mhm.
right? That the reason I have them in my life is to argue. Like literally. So if I put out a piece of work or I want to put out a piece of work, I want to know their opinion
Mm.
because we disagree on everything.
So you need
Right?
to
Mm.
hear that
I want to
opposite
hear the opposite
Yeah.
voice.
Yeah.
perspective,
Yeah.
like
Mm,
so that because I feel like people don't
I like
realize
that.
how hearing other people's
Hearing,
perspectives,
Mhm. Mhm.
right?
yeah,
Mhm.
Not taking it personally,
Yeah. But
not
just
imbibing
yeah,
hearing.
it,
receiving it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
receiving it and
Yeah.
dissecting what
Yeah.
is useful to me,
Yeah.
what can make my work,
Yeah.
you know,
Better.
better.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of creatives tend to take things personally,
I
Absolutely.
agree.
like,
You're criticizing their idea.
and you're a human being,
Yeah.
like it's okay to feel your
I
feelings, but
Yeah.
completely agree.
sit down and just be like, actually,
Mhm.
what's the point here?
Yeah,
I
Mhm.
might not agree with you,
Mhm.
uh, but I can see a perspective and I can take
actually,
something from that perspective to
Mm.
help, you know,
Mm.
make my
yeah.
work
I'm
better.
actually smiling because this happened very recently. A customer sent us a message. No, she actually posted it, and her words were, "I just tried your food. It seems like you guys have fallen off." Pause. Because I compared it to this dish in this other place
Mhm.
Mm.
and it tastes different.
Mm.
Whew,
That's
pause. I need to unpack that.
Yeah.
My team
Yeah.
reached out to me to
Mm.
say they don't like this feedback. It's giving
Mm.
them nothing, it's
Mm.
comparison,
Mhm.
and it's not fair for her to make that statement
Mm.
Mhm.
if her only thing is comparing her taste palette
From one
between
place
Mm.
two
to another.
places. She
Yeah.
didn't say anything was wrong. She just
Yeah.
Yeah.
said comparison.
Yeah.
She felt it tasted
Yeah.
better
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
But then she said we had fallen off.
Mhm.
I called a whole meeting because I did not like how my team
Felt.
Felt.
reacted
Yeah.
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They took it too
Oh
personal.
yeah.
It was
Personally.
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
much
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
feelings.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we had a whole meeting, and what I said to them is, you're not hearing her. The
Mm.
first thing you need to do is buy it from that place
Mm.
first and
Mhm.
taste
Mm.
it
Mm.
and actually hear what she's saying, because there's a difference in her tongue and
Mm.
taste, her senses,
Mm.
that is making that, presenting them
Yeah.
differently. So why don't you taste it first? See if you understand the difference. And they were wondering why I would put them through some a feedback they didn't think was true.
Mm.
And I was like, you're not hearing
Mm.
her
Mm.
and you're taking it too emotional. So I
Mhm.
really like that you
And
said that,
even
because
just
it makes me feel
understanding that
good.
sometimes
Yeah.
people's opinions are just that,
Opinions.
their
It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
her
opinions,
opinion.
and their own
Yeah.
opinions are born from their own experiences,
Yes.
their
Yep.
own
Yes.
traumas. Like,
Exactly.
because first of all, think about a person that goes to to another person's business and the way that they start their feedback
Yeah.
is you've
You have fallen
fallen
It
off.
off. Yeah.
hurts so
Yeah.
It's not
much.
you're not in a healed place.
Yes. You are not.
That
You
is
absolutely
your,
aren't. Yeah.
it could be you could have
Yes.
said,
Yeah.
oh my god, I used to be so obsessed
Obsessed
with
with it.
Yeah.
the
Or
Yeah.
jollof
even
rice in the
Yeah.
house
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
but now my new favorite
is
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 this.
this
blah blah
place?
Or
blah.
even,
Yeah.
guys, I tried this
Yeah.
and I think it tastes nicer than this.
I'm
Like,
I'm so
yeah.
glad. I'm so
So
glad you
feedback,
said that
yes.
sometimes the way people give feedback also you should
Hmm.
realize it's not a you
It's not a
thing.
you
And I
It's a them
thing.
wanted to
thing.
Yeah.
point that
I mean,
out,
I run
yes.
an agency. You can't imagine
Whoo!
the kind of feedback
Feedback,
that I have gotten. And it like I
especially
said, a lot of
designs.
people have opinions about it. Exactly. They
Hmm.
just don't like the design.
Yeah.
you followed the
And you
brief, but
think
they
it's
just don't like the
great,
design. And
yeah.
then people have been thoughtful in their feedback, but people have been downright rude.
Mm.
I've returned money. Do you understand? Like,
Oh
I have
yes, for
given
sure.
just for the mental health of my
Yeah.
team, because me, I'm like,
Yeah.
there's nothing you can say to me. Do you know what I
But
mean?
I love that you said that, and I
Yeah, it's
really think
important.
people
Yeah,
need to take that on.
yeah,
In a country where data is sparse
yeah.
and a lot of us are first generation builders, honestly, the biggest thing we can do for each other is give constructive feedback. But
Mhm.
on the other side,
Be
funnel through the
kind.
feedback and
Yeah.
hear
Yeah,
what the person is saying and
trying to
take,
say.
yeah,
Mm.
all
That's a good one for
trying to say.
creatives
I
Mm.
really
to be
like
able to
that.
take constructive
Because for
feedback.
creative, it even hurts
Oh,
even
you put this beautiful
more.
body
Yeah.
of work out and
I know,
somebody
and they're
tells
like,
you, well, just imagine,
Especially
yeah,
when it
but
comes from your heart. You know,
yeah.
with
mm,
operations, sometimes you just follow
yeah, yeah,
theories
I'm
yeah,
of.
such a weirdo because you know something. Like my friends always say this thing is so like I'm so annoying. Like so, for example, my group of friends, like they're like my biggest cheerleaders.
mm-hmm,
Mhm.
If I send them something to read
mm-hmm,
or something to watch,
mm-hmm.
oh my god, I said you're so brilliant. How'd you
Mhm.
come up with this? I hate this feedback because I'm just like, you are not useful to me.
Yeah, tell me
I
something
want
specific.
I like I
Yeah.
want to
Find
hear
something.
Mm-hmm.
like from the people who
Mm-hmm.
think
This is
what is this?
Okay.
yeah.
Or the people who are skeptical. I want to see
Mm.
Mm.
what their feedback is. So, for
Yeah.
example, you see how you said you loved the product placement
Yeah.
on
Mhm.
season one,
Yeah.
right? It's very interesting because some people felt like it was too on the nose, but
Oh.
and I
Mm.
agree,
Mm-hmm.
but it was intentional
Yes,
You're
because
still talking to a brand
I was
I
expert.
like,
kept saying,
We love brands, so we're like,
I was like, do you know what? This how we're eating.
do you know that
yes,
I said, you remember how I phrased it? I said I love the intentionality
personality
Mm.
behind
behind
the
it.
product
Yes,
I
placements.
was like, you
because
want
you
to
could
watch
tell
this?
that it was
You
Yes.
you
intentionally
want to
Yes.
done.
watch this beautiful show?
Yes.
I have to pay
I
for
have to
it.
You have
pay
to pay
for
for
it,
it.
and to pay
Yes.
for it, I have
Yes.
to appeal to the brand.
Yes.
So,
Yes,
but does that mean that I have to do it on the nose all the time?
Maybe
No,
not.
it
yes,
means
Yeah.
that I'm going to
You
evolve
will.
in the
Yeah.
way that I
Yeah.
integrate like the
Yeah.
products in like the films,
Yeah.
but I have no qualms about anybody being like, oh, it's too branded.
Why was
Oh
the
my god,
this and
another
that?
one that made me laugh, another criticism that
Yeah.
used to come up was that why I was plugging my friends' brands like so much. Like, and I was like, please, as in, why is she plugging Utopia Beauty? Why is she? And I'm just like,
but
do you know
as you
what?
should.
Write your own book, create
Literally.
your own movie, and don't
Literally.
promote your
That
friends.
would be the response.
Like,
Honestly, that would be the only
like
As
I
you
response.
stand
should.
by, like I stand by it.
Uh,
Like
Double
I
down. That's
double
a double
yeah.
down on
down
But
it.
you know, that's the
Like,
moment.
beauty of human beings. Somebody is
Yes.
always going to say some shit.
But I
yeah,
also want
Somebody will
people
always
to know
say,
that in the game of the world,
yeah.
with the brands you don't know, I
Mm-hmm.
promise you, they're calling their friend for that
absolutely.
activation.
Mm-hmm.
That movie
Absolutely.
director is calling his friend, his
Yeah.
brand owner
Yeah.
friend,
Till
and making sure
today.
is his brand friend's
Yep.
Yeah.
TV that is
Yes.
on the screen.
Excuse me, that's the whole
So
point.
don't let what you don't know
Yeah.
confuse you, but
Yeah.
everybody
I
does that.
also think that people don't realize how subconsciously when they're watching American movies and
Mm-hmm.
you're seeing
They
Apple,
they
you're
are
seeing Samsung,
friends.
the
It's product.
Koreans,
It's product
It's
Koreans are
product
placement.
the best at doing
placement.
this.
Yeah.
Like you're seeing product placement
Yeah.
throughout the thing, but because
Everywhere.
you don't identify it as a Nigerian
Yeah.
brand that
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it feels normal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I'm very big on how are we using our
Absolutely.
storytelling and
Yeah.
our mediums
Yeah.
to promote
Yeah.
Other
like
brands.
other
Yeah.
brands,
Yeah.
like Nigerian brands. Till today, my best friend's business, Utopia, people walk in there from South Africa, from
You
Ghana,
Mm.
and
see,
they're like, oh my God, I read about this in
in the
Smart Money Woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
exactly.
wrote the book 10 years
I'm
ago.
actually shocked about
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
I feel like also another reason why they don't understand is happening is because you don't know them. You're too busy worshiping them. Then the people you have access to, it's
Mm-hmm.
easy for you to point fingers and
I
say,
Yeah.
also
do you
think that that
understand?
is a fantastic example of not a healed person. Because why would
Mm,
you want to help your friends?
yeah.
I've never heard anything like that
Like
before
Yeah.
that
in my
before,
life.
yeah.
My friend has a
Hmm.
business and I
And
can
I'm
support
creating
it.
something.
Then it means I hate you.
I
Yeah.
still
You're not
see
my friend.
before you came today, I sat to me that I goes, hey babe, we've just developed some new spaces at the house. All your meetings, if I see you anywhere
Anywhere
else,
else.
you better come
Bring the
here.
governor too.
Like bring them here.
As in,
And
and I
that's
was
how it
like,
should be.
absolutely, yeah.
And to be honest, that's what is saving a lot of us. That's what's
Yes,
nation
yes,
Mm,
yes,
building this
yes, yes,
country.
mhm.
yes,
So
yes.
I think it is very important that we carry that energy going.
Yeah.
So yeah, kudos to you.
Collaborate to compete.
Arisa, thank you
Yes.
so
Collective
so
Yeah.
much.
prosperity.
We always say collective
Collective
prosperity, but you've
Yeah.
really
prosperity.
blessed us with some gems today.
Yes.
And I just it was like, honestly, I was like watching a movie because you were
I
taking us
was
on the
watching the
journey.
movie,
Like, you
like
were
in real
taking
life.
us on the
No.
journey, and it gives you a bigger
And
appreciation.
another thing is, thank you for staying true to your idea.
Mm.
Thank
Like,
you.
I don't think
Mhm.
it is easy for people. And one thing I would also encourage as well, Arisa started by taking it from her mind and writing it down.
Mm.
Good for her, it turned to a book, but remember, the lesson here is bring
Write
it
it
out of
down.
your
Your
mind
mind,
and
Mhm.
yeah,
write it down
Mhm.
and just
for
start. Make that
sure.
first call.
Mhm.
Ask that first person, and you
Mhm.
never know where it's going to take you.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
generally, ideas evolve.
Mm.
They come from your head and they become things that some people cannot live without, people depend on, and people, the nation build. Like, look how your idea has turned into a
Like,
culture of
I think
phenomenal.
the part for me was when there was this girls' school, or like a
Yes. Oh
school,
my God, that was
little
amazing.
girls, and they
You
were I
said
think they added
earlier,
it to the curriculum, or they had added it to a something, and I
So,
thought,
it's been in a
or
curriculum.
something like that
do you
program.
know that I have people come to me and say that I wrote my thesis about Smart Money
Wow.
Woman?
See, so
Wow.
you have shaped
I
cultures
like
then.
it is insane. Like,
Mhm.
or um a school, basically they sent me this video
Mhm.
with their teacher,
Mhm.
Mr. Oloyede,
Mhm.
and he basically was like, the girls have read like this book, and they've um what do you call it? It wasn't even just girls. Like,
Mm.
it was a
Oh,
mix of like
Mm.
really young teenagers,
Mhm.
and they had read The Small Money Woman. And I want you to know that I went to their school
Mhm.
and they performed like scenes from it. So
Goosebumps.
they had
see,
they had
Goosebumps. Yeah.
read it,
goosebumps.
analyzed it, done a little like book club type thing like with it, and then created different plays from aspects of the book, and like added their own like sort of
Did you
ideas.
cry?
Smiling.
I cried,
I
Yes,
was like,
and
I.
I took Zipporah with me,
I
Oh
would have
my
wept.
and
I
she
God.
was like, "What?"
She must have been looking at you like, my mom is golden.
Like, it
Oh my
was so
goodness.
Shout out,
amazing.
Mr.
Olayede,
Olayode.
Olayede, yeah.
Yeah,
Shout you out. Honestly,
I
that's
need to remember
great.
the name of the school now
It had
because
I
now
had a
it's
It's
like
fancy name. Oh,
fine.
that's all I know. It had like a
it's Jim Ovia School in. It used to be in Delta State. Now it is in
James something something
James
James.
James.
I'm
Uh,
gonna
That's what I said. It
just.
had like a fancy
We
name,
can find
I
it
James.
know
quickly
we
just to
can
shout them
please
out.
because they
That's so
were so
cool.
cute.
It was so cute.
Oh my God, how did I make you
I
feel?
was like, wow. Because
Oh,
they first sent me a video basically telling me how much they love the book and all
Mm-hmm.
of that, and it was such a cute video.
Mm.
And
let me
then they
find the name.
invited me to the school, James
James
College.
Hope
Hope
Because I remember
College.
College.
the J and I
Yes.
was
Yeah,
like, okay.
and
Hi,
then
everyone at James Hope. Oh,
they
I'm
were
so
amazing.
happy.
So cute. Oh,
Oh no, that's
Yeah,
great. No,
yeah.
thank you. I hope
thank
you've
you so
had
much.
fun. Like
I
this
had
has
an
been
amazing
actually
time. This was
great.
great.
And honestly, I'm so much comforted, encouraged, and motivated
Mm-hmm,
to
mm-hmm.
learn to cultivate, grow, and not be too fearful of my
And
ideas.
all I want to say is that I want jollof rice from the house
I got
as
you,
a bribe.
girl. I got you. I
That thing has
got
me
you.
in a
It
chokehold.
has,
It
I
has
think it's everybody
everybody.
in a
Do you know
chokehold.
it's so
Yeah.
weird because I'm like, we have a big menu. Everyone's like, Toby,
Jollof rice.
jollof rice.
Jollof rice.
Oh my God. I love it.
Amazing.
No, thank you so much. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode.
Mm-hmm,
Don't forget
mm-hmm.
to like, share, and subscribe.
Till next time, guys.
Bye.